Going on, everybody? How's it going? How's it going? Welcome to Market Minds with your guest host. It's me, Charles Moon, stepping in for the great Scott Bauer. Hopefully, I could fill his big shoes. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about SMCI. Now, these are the three things that we're going to discuss. I'll be bringing my charts in and out. Um, in just a bit. But we're going to talk about SMCI. We're going to talk about stocks that have the ability to benefit from the crypto bump. I'm sure a lot of people have interest, and we want to talk about growth stocks. The next ones to explode today. AI is one of the names that's going a bit parabolic, and that's really what we have noticed here, or what I have noticed here, is that there's been stocks that have struggled throughout this calendar year and all of a sudden are coming to life, are going really crazy to the upside. And there's a lot more of these names to come. So currently the market is down 136 points in the Dow, but up nearly 100 points in the NASDAQ. S&P kind of staying steady, up 8, which was a pretty good sign to see because they were down earlier. Russell also up here about 1/5 of a percent. The VIX, though, even with the S&P up, is still up for the day. VIX futures is up 3.44%. This is actually probably one of the few times that I've seen VIX futures outpace the actual VIX contract. I've always, for a long time, have talked about the VIX contract directly, but Scott and Mike always reminds me to focus on VIX futures. That's going to be more important than the actual VIX themselves. What's up? These are markets in the house. And these are my guys, Sandip, Herbert. How's it going? Guillermo, how's it going? So, enough about me. Let's bring this in here. Let's talk about this SMCI. Saved or destined for failure? Well, currently they're saved, right? They're up quite a bit today. Last I saw, they were up around 30%. They're at 29.5% right now. But I want to make sure that people know what's happening here, okay? Number one, they survived long enough to be able to submit a new auditor. They're going to be working on the 10Q, 10K filing. They have a plan that they submitted to the NASDAQ to regain compliance. Everybody now thinks that, things are fine and dandy and that SMCI is on their merry ways. Well, two things. Number one, facing scenarios like this, generally speaking, the NASDAQ renders their decision very quickly. So we could expect somewhere in the next 24, potentially 48 hours or so, whether SMCI has fully or will be granted their extension to work on regaining compliance, or they're going to get halted until they can present that to the NASDAQ and then they will reopen. There's a lot of talk on social media that the NASDAQ is going to wait until NVIDIA reports their earnings because they don't want to, affect the markets in any certain way, especially regarding NVIDIA in relation with SMCI news. And if you're wondering why, it's because NVIDIA counts upwards around 11%, give or take, of their sales direct from SMCI. So this is kind of something that I just want to make sure people are very aware of, that while SMCI is currently trading, we still have to hear back from the NASDAQ. There is a really good chance that the NASDAQ is going to continue to allow SMCI to trade, to work on regaining their, good standing and being compliant with the NASDAQ. I'd say in the worst case scenario, they're going to be like, no, we need more information. You are halted. And for those that are wondering what happens to their money, well, with the options market, from what I understand, pretty much everything is either going to be credited at the closing price of the option market, or it's kind of tough luck. You hold SMCI calls, and it's what, 3 days to expiration. They're probably going to expire worthless. That's the big scenario. The more bigger concern is the holding of the underlying, because if they do get halted and let's say they do regain compliance, there's no guarantees that they're going to open at the price point that they get halted at. It could open up obviously much lower, much more higher. It really depends on what the institutions and how they would bid up the markets, or how the market makers would design the market. So there's a lot of underlying inherent risks that people may or may not know about, and that's why I wanted to start this show off. That being said, in the best case scenario that they're granted this extension, they're working on regaining compliance. Their auditor that they chose, which is I think DBO USA, is like, yeah, we're good with it. Then, quite honestly, there's great upside. I think that SMCI has the capabilities making a huge move. Sorry, let me bring this in. Huge move near term, just to around $40. There's a beautiful profit pocket. My AI and Momo traders know what that is. There's a beautiful profit pocket between this 20 SMA and this 50 SMA. That's that space within that box. We call that unobstructed upside. There's no real technical levels for technical based traders to kind of reference to try and initiate trades. We know that there's a lot of space, so generally, short sellers will be patient. Buyers are going to be driving it up in anticipation that it's going to try and pin itself to that orange line, which is the 50 SMA. This is important because even on trading today and how active it is and how much volume is coming in, look at where they stopped. They stopped at this little gray line. That's the 20 simple moving average on the daily chart. So even at this moment, I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger here. Even at this moment, when there's a robust amount of volume and interest around the stock, it's still respecting and reacting towards technical levels. So we don't want to just throw the technicals out the window. They're going to offer up a lot of projection. And there's also the momentum not only to carry it to the 50, but if they happen to get above, there's this amazing gap fill that the stock could go after. And so there's a lot of attractive short-term upside opportunities in SMCI. And a lot of that is going to be tied and very specific to the news that's surrounding the stock. And of course, it's the one thing that nobody could really predict is the news. So make sure that everybody is aware of their scenarios coming to SMCI. Know your levels as well. Short term 30, next upside 39.40, and then after that, the YOLO slash home run opportunity up to 49s. I'm rooting for it. I know that we have a lot of students that are involved in this stock, and the last thing I want to do is prevent people from making money. I just want to make sure you folks are informed, so you know the scenario, you know the risks and the rewards that you are facing when you are playing in this name. Now let's talk about the crypto bump. Everybody associates stocks like Coinbase and MSTR, rightfully so, with crypto, right? A lot of hype around Mara, and a lot of retail interest around Mara, CLSK, Riot. What about these other names? I'm going to ask you, chat, really quickly. How many of you know that SQ is a big crypto play, especially when it comes to Bitcoin? How many of you? Hands up. How many of you? Yeah, Crypto Honda in the chat. What's up, baby? This is important to understand, because remember, just because you're not a crypto exchange or I don't even know what MSTR. They're just like a custodian of crypto. That doesn't mean that these stocks can't benefit. Okay, good. So, SQ, for those that don't know, owns a peer-to-peer slash business slash kind of fintech company known as Cash App. And on Cash App, not only can you buy stocks, but you could also buy Bitcoin. And they're known as a custodian. Now, if you buy Bitcoin on Cash App, the one thing you cannot do is transfer it out of their ecosphere and put it into your wallet and then resell it on another exchange like Coinbase. The only time and the only thing you can do is buy the quote unquote price of what the asset is, which is crypto or Bitcoin, and then sell it right back to Block. Um, but that's the same thing with Hood, PayPal, and IBKR. You could do the same thing as well. And so, if you've looked at what these stocks have done, I'm just going to point out this. You could see how extremely bullish they are. Now, these lines that are on the chart, same thing. These are long dated resistance levels, and the space in between the lines are known as profit pockets. And so, usually, when they break through one level, it gets to the next very quickly. You could kind of see it in this point where it broke it here, and 2 days later, SQ was trading up towards this 90 price, came back and held the old resistance level. That's where it broke out to for support and utilized that to break out. And sure enough, today, take a look at exactly where the lows are, right, in relation to this $90 resistance level. And SQ has bounced. It's bounced because Bitcoin has made a really nice up move. And this now brings into the other thing that I talked about with growth stocks come back. This is one of those names that you have to keep an eye on. This and PayPal in particular. This has been 3 year. This is a 3 year weekly chart. You could see just the long dated consolidation that the stock has been in. And the idea here is that we need to understand when a stock stops going down, they're going to do two things. They're going to go sideways and then they're going to go back up, right? If it's not going to go down anymore, there's only two directions it could go, sideways and up. So this is really important to recognize because this upper yellow line at $90, well, that's the only thing that's standing in between the breakout here towards the 200 simple moving average. And once we get above that threshold, well, there's only one little pink line that you see here, and there's a lot of open space. We need a, people forget at how, in demand the stock used to be and the price performance of the stock. I'll go to a 15-year chart and we can look at it from a bigger perspective. This is a stock that was $289. And now they've been in this really tight range, albeit for several years, around this $55 to $90 price. So when we talk about upside, well, their upside was nearly at 290. We're now talking about potentially seeing this stock go on a absolute bull run like the last time they broke out of consolidation. Now, don't quote me in thinking that this stock's going to go up $200 from where it is now. But what if you have the ability of gaining 50 points, 90 points? What a long term opportunity that this stock is showing, and what a great short term breakout opportunity that is being presented. This is the same thing with PayPal. Folks, PayPal used to be a $300 stock. And again, very similar to Block, this long term consolidation. Now, they certainly have a little bit more of a hairier, quote unquote, road to go. Every single one of these lines do represent potential resistance and potential pivot. So the idea is to know when it breaks above this 103 price, that's when it get into that quote unquote fun zone. It starts to really break out. And if you think that Bitcoin is going to stop at 100,000, then you shouldn't consider PayPal and SQ in the near term as long-term plays. But I'll tell you right now that pause at 100,000, and I truly mean that it's going to be a pause, and it could be a longer pause. It's going to be a significant one. That's going to be a major barrier. But once the crack in the dam happens, folks, once Bitcoin could get through 100,000, I mean, the sky's the limit. We're talking about, an asset that went from being a single digits asset to a double digit, right? And so on and so forth. And now we're talking about going from 5 digits to 6 digits, and the psychological effect. It wouldn't surprise me to see Bitcoin explode very quickly up to 150,000, not in hours, but, probably faster than it took to go from 50 to 100,000 here. It's very possible. And once that dam breaks, the short squeeze is going to be on. There's going to be massive liquidations from the bears, and shame on the bears trying to short Bitcoin. What are you thinking? But that's what's going to be required for PayPal to recover, for Block to move up. But possible. My man Hondo, I'm pretty sure we're kind of on the same boat. If we look at Hood, you can see this as well. Shocking that they're in this really tight consolidation now raising up. And you can see how they've been able to really maneuver from this profit pocket to next. Now they're getting into this really big, congestion zone and possible pivot points. This is where I'm looking for Hood to get really fun through this 47 half. And this is where it could start getting into that really pseudo parabolic mode as well. So, girl, how's it going? Yeah. So, this is really key. This is really key. So, like, we're looking for this Hood breakout. It's all kind of one and the same. Obviously, the profiles of the stocks are slightly different. Now, look at IBKR. What a run they've been on, 130 to 185 here over the last few months, and they're not stopping. And again, this is on a 15-year chart. So this is different. They're making new history and they're really changing the profile of what this company has been viewed. I mean, you could see the progressive state in this stock going on for a decade, and then just look at what it's done in the last year. It's certainly outpaced what it's done in the last 10 years. So if you don't understand what that means, it means that um, the institutions, the retail traders, they're viewing this as like almost a totally brand new entity. It's performing different, it's behaving different. And because of that, we have to look at it very differently. We can't look at it as a slow grinding asset that's been moving for decades and smaller growth going from like 30 to 80, $90, when now all of a sudden in the last year we've gone from 90 to 185. So again, the whole aspect of how it trades, just like Hood, is very different. PayPal is very different than how it was earlier in the year. SQ very different than how it was very early in the year. And these stocks fit the kind of aspect of growth, right? This is now getting into that category of growth stocks comeback. Who might be the next to explode? So, on top of those names, we want to look at a few others as well. So, I'm going to pull out a name like Twilio. How many of you are familiar with Twilio? Let's go, BTC, baby. They're not going to stop. They'll pause at 100,000. They're just not going to stop. So if you're familiar with this company, Twilio, we actually here at Prosper Trading use this company. They own a company under their umbrella named known as SendGrid, and that's what we use to send out our emails. So this one, if you take a look before, they've made this crazy trajectory where they went from 22 to 150 bucks, and then they broke down from 50 and then went from 50 to 450. So if you're wondering, I mean, listen, this isn't like a reverse split where it's made these like moves. This was the actual behavior of the stock price previously. So common theme here, right? Take a look. I'm gonna pull this back to just a 3-year chart. Common theme here, right? Huge descending downtrend, sideways consolidation, and now breakout of the consolidation. Hopefully, you folks are enjoying this information, because if you are, do me a favor. There's a thumbs up by this video. Click on that thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to us, do me a favor, subscribe to our Prosper Trading channel. We would greatly appreciate it. But that thumbs up, gets us in the algorithm a little bit more. And more importantly, obviously, YouTube uses that information to kind of help gear you towards things that you like. So I would just really appreciate if everybody could just click a thumb button underneath where the video chat is coming in. So Twilio right now is on watch for a breakout of $100. So that breakout from $100 opens the door to around 142. That 142 level is going to coincide with a pretty significant resistance level right around 176. So you can see that there's just basically two major barriers once Twilio gets above. And again, if I told you that there's a stock that's going to go from $100 to $140 relatively easy, how many of you would be interested? I'm sure a lot of you would. Well, if you look at Twilio here and how they have behaved when they've hit these profit pockets. Well, the last one they broke 79 and they got up to 101 really, really quickly. So, every time they get above one of these dotted lines and there's a little bit of space, we're looking for it to kind of just shoot those gaps. And that's really important. Everybody, most people know what filling the gap is and the laws of attraction with these gap fills. It's kind of the same thing when we go from one pivot point on to the next. So, this is really important to understand. Twilio is one of those names that I want you to keep an eye on. Another one, which is making a lot of noise, but nobody's hearing it right now, is SE, Sierra Echo. This is a stock. You could just look. 3 years ago, they were $312. I think they're a Malaysian or Singaporean stock. Generally, kind of moves with the Chinese stocks, but lately has been kind of um, you know, making its moves without that market. And same thing, they've hit this like downside consolidation. They're breaking out. The 120-ish level is where we're watching because I love the breakout opportunity from 120 to 135. And I got to tell you something. This is a stock that could go from 120 to 135 in one day. They could get up to this upper 173, 174 level very, very quickly. And in fact, they break that threshold. Your next major resistance point is going to be somewhere in the range of around 230. Now, if you're wondering how I'm picking out where my resistance levels are, is where I always look for a stock to rebound to and go to their highest peak. And then once they're at their highest peak, they tend to drop. Now, if you're wondering why I have this upper line, but this one not as an upper line, it's because that's a byproduct of that upper resistance rejection, right? That was just part of the continuance that eventually led it down to there to pop to this level to drop again and then pop. So I always look at where the absolute peak price of the stock before it turns down and continues down as major resistance points. And that's how I utilize charting. So now when we get into these profit pocket zones, the reason why we want to know about this is two things. One, people tend to take money off the table too quickly, right? So you say, "Oh man, I could have held on to this thing and got 10 more points." Well, if you knew that there was going to be the potential to making 10 more points, you would be more inclined to hold on. So it immediately changes the mentality of your position while you're in it. And that's important, right? Because having a plan and a structure is going to allow you to maximize your profit potential and, of course, minimize your risk or your losses. And again, we're not going to win on every trade, but if we can maximize our gains in these scenarios, if you make 1,000 on this trade, but there's potential to make 10,000, people aren't going to be so quick to take that $1,000. They may take 500 and give the other half of that trade a chance to run. But again, this is going to allow you, knowing where the potential outcomes can be, to work your trades a little bit more efficiently, a little bit smarter, and with a little bit more confidence, especially if you see the stock going up almost on a daily basis. So SE is one of these names I want you to kind of keep an eye on. There's some great profit pockets, and I mean huge upside potential. This is at 112, and that stock was over $300 just a few years ago. Shopify, another name that a lot of people are familiar with. This is one I want you to keep a very close eye on. Now, if we take a look very closely here on the chart, 3 years ago was $170. Well, this $100 threshold was really important. That was kind of that last line of defense. And even though it's not immediately breaking out, I'll tell you one thing right now. Here's a very bullish sign. When previous resistance, especially a level of interest like the psychological level of $100, comes immediate support, that's probably your sign that this is going to make that little turnaround back towards that 144 to 145 range. And then, of course, after that, it's 170. And if you notice here where this yellow box is, this is where there's been a lot of congestion, a lot of reference points. But once we get above that yellow box, look, There's very few long-term reference points or pivot levels that this stock is facing. So Shopify is one of those names that if this market gets very bullish, could get into this kind of pseudo, I don't want to say parabolic state like BKKT was parabolic yesterday, but really just seeing some really significant gains in a short period of time. The last one I want to present to you guys is going to be LMND. Lemonade. This is again shocking, same profile, consolidation. They rejected at the 200 SMA last week. Well, they broke through this level today, and look at how they're behaving. Very bullish. So the 3-year high is 53.36, which is up there. But this is where I say, when in doubt, zoom out. So what I'm going to do is take you to a 5-year chart. So now when we look at the 5-year highs, all of a sudden it's very different. We're now looking at projectable upside in the range of around 78 to 80, and then perhaps into the 120 range. And those that didn't know, this stock at one point in time traded as high as $188. It's $40 right now, folks. This is something that you want to keep an eye on. This has tremendous, tremendous upside if the momentum gains, even if it goes from 39 to 60 bucks, which is what my anticipation is. That's a huge return, especially percentage wise, for a stock that's been dead in the water going on 2 years. Now, I talked about AI earlier. They're not there yet, but AI is also one of those names that traded as high as 183.90 down to $10. They're on the verge of a breakout, but they're not yet. The ones I want to present to you today are the ones that are already breaking. But as a bonus, you're going to want to keep AI on this list. Now, folks, we're going to spin the wheel here. Let's do the word of the day. And today's word of the day is, I think they said mooner. 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 So do me a favor, folks, get that word of the day in the chat so we can get you on the wheel and get you your swag, folks. LMND is my nemesis. Yeah, but it could be a fun stock, and listen, I'm never going to tell you what to do, but just do me a favor. Listen, LMND, like the old LMND, almost like there's another stock that's probably not doing anything, but they came out at the same time as EXPI, and these IPOs were awesome to trade. Awesome, like printing up pretty good money. And that it reminded me of when DDD and SSYS also kind of debuted. They were making like 15, 20-point moves a day. That was awesome run up. So I'm hoping LMND gets back to the old LMND. Their float is pretty low. Markets are liquid enough to move. And it's been pretty good. So listen, I'm just trying to chit chat just for a few minutes to give my guy Michael some time to get all your names on the wheel. Let's go. Mooner. 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 Look at this chat go. I appreciate you all, folks. Thanks for hanging out and hanging in with us. I will be back on Thursday. I believe Scott's going to be back tomorrow. So thank God Scott's going to be back. I will be sitting in on Thursday. We'll talk more like this as well. Obviously, we're going to have, a lot to talk about on that day, especially in relation to NVIDIA. This is going to, shaping up to be a possibly really strong rebound week after the week we had. People still believe that the Trump bump is still on. And again, I just want to kindly remind you that after the last 3 elections, the S&P 500 on average gained around 13% up until the end of the year starting. Actually, I think it's dated to the inauguration date. So that's kind of what we would be looking into. So somewhere around January there. Serious? I love that. I wrote a moon algo I call Moonshot based on your lesson. I love that. Much love. Baby shit, too. That's really pretty cool. Are we good to go? Do we need some more? We still need some more time. Again, we'll give everybody a few more seconds here. Get your word of the day out, folks. Mooner. The Mooner. Yeah, we should actually already been running it right now. I'm already running you guys a little bit late. Apologies. You said 1 minute. So 1 more minute to go. 1 more minute, folks, and then we're going to cut it off. And then we're going to do the word of the day and send out some swag. 100%. If you want to send it to me, Charles at prospertrading.com. And folks, you could always email me anytime you like, Charles at prospertrading.com. I'll do my best to respond in a timely fashion, of course. Moon. Yeah, again, it just seems time right now, right? That a lot of these growth stocks that haven't been, behaving well in the last 2 years are starting to come back. This was one of the names that I really liked at the beginning of this year, DoorDash, when they initially broke through this $90 price. I was expecting this upside, and now they're above 150 and they're working their way back. People forget DoorDash was a $250 stock, or maybe people didn't know. Well, if you didn't, now you know. All right, folks. The drawing has closed. And here comes the wheel. The Market Minds wheel. Good luck, everybody. And here we go. Let's see who is going to be our big winner today. Jay-Z. Oh, I have no idea how to pronounce that. I'm just going to go by Keo. XOXI Keo. So do me a favor, folks. What do they have to email, Michael? You have to email, I think, prosperswag at prospertrading.com. Make sure you get that information. Congrats, XOXI Keo, or is that Hugs and Kisses Keo? That was pretty cool. Yeah, I just want to say thanks again, everybody, that you were hanging around this stream. I'm always grateful. We're always grateful. Do me a favor again, if you like today, or if you like this Market Minds live stream that Scott has been doing, click that thumbs up button. You could click on our title or right next to our title. If you're not subscribed to our channel, feel free to subscribe. It's absolutely free. If you use YouTube, you might as well pay attention to what we have anyways. And again, liking that button can only be a very strong positive. And with that, folks, I just want to say thank you for your time. And until tomorrow, nothing but profits, peace, and love. We are out of here.